Produce 6 lots in there. So.
I know, I'm looking at that and I'm going, okay.
They put in 3 or 4, 5 or 6 retail and restaurants. Bring some.
Yeah, 630 people, that would be amazing.
Same kind of.
Come on, you guys, hurry up and get here. Why are
They'll be.
How do they skinny in right at the 9th hour? I'd like
They're
to
just
know.
waiting outside talking about that.
Oh.
Power naps.
This-
Okay, I wish I did. I don't. Okay. I'll take your word for it.
I'll try and keep my filter. I'll try and keep the filter on the mouth tonight. Okay? You guys can kick me.
We'll tell you what I'll do. I'll tell you what I'll do, Donna.
Put filter on that button and set it
I'll
right
throw
over.
this out. That's ordinance 7
Shut up.
and number 10. Correct? Oh, they're between us.
Oh, there's a remembered step when she worked in my office.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Yeah, she was really good at it. And then my other daughter took her from me. But then Steph found me my replacement. Char, I have Char now. And she does. It's good to have
Yeah, I know, Terry's got insurance.
Yep, he does.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I see him probably once a year, maybe.
I just had lunch with him.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, our
Terry,
families are right.
you doing all right?
Doing good. What you asked?
You look like you were deep in thought.
I was. You didn't want me. You want me to let you do that?
Travels quite a bit. Out of town.
Not a character, I know.
I know, that's what I'm wondering. Here's Mark.
There we go. Mark's here. I'll bet you it'll be.
If Ed doesn't get here,
You'll be here.
the joke's gonna be on us.
Wow, I beat Ed. Okay, everyone, let's get started. Welcome to the City Council meeting, May 18th, 2021. I am calling the meeting to order. Thanks, everyone, for being here tonight. The invocation by Mr. Joe Sukra. If you would, Joe.
I want to share something from Psalms. It says, "The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The statutes of the Lord are trustworthy, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, giving joy to the heart. The commands of the Lord are radiant, giving light to the eyes. The fear of the Lord is pure, enduring forever. The ordinances of the Lord are sure and altogether righteous. They are more precious than gold, than much pure gold. They are sweeter than honey from the comb. By them is your servant warned. In keeping them there is great reward." God, I thank you for a day that is a day that we have seen the sun come out. Thank you, God, for blessing us. Thank you for the rain that has so adequately watered our soil. And thank you for the green that we see growing out on the hills and in our yards. God, just for your provision. God, the psalm that I just read talks about ordinances, and certainly that's a thing that city councils discuss and make decisions about. So I pray, God, for your spirit to give your wisdom, your leading, and that the decisions made tonight would be for your glory and for the betterment of our city. God, I thank you for those who serve. I pray that you would bless them in their service. Help those of us who are citizens of the community to know how to support and encourage and be involved in ways that move our city in the right direction. So God, we just thank you for this day once more and pray for your will to be done in this meeting. And I ask this in Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Joe.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, watch it.
Thanks again, Joe. Okay, we have a roll call, please.
Leslie,
Here.
Tryon,
Here.
Bowles,
Here.
Lucas, Garrick,
Here.
Harlan,
Here.
Reeker,
Here.
Woods.
Here. Thank you. Open Meetings Act. A current copy of the Open Meetings Act of Nebraska is posted on the wall at the back of the council chambers. Meeting procedure. The public may address specific agenda items at the pleasure of the mayor. If recognized by the mayor, please identify yourself by stating your name and address. Please address the council through the mayor and limit remarks to 3 minutes or less. We respect our city employees and request that any complaints, I would say compliments and I get in trouble. Any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. Consent agenda. All matters under the consent agenda are considered by the city council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any city council member may, however, remove an item from consent by request. Item number 1, approve minutes from May 4, 2021. Item number 2, place on file the treasurer's report for April 2021. Item number 3, approve application by Mid-Plains Food and Lodging, Inc. for a special designated license for June 18, 2021 from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Fat Dogs North, 1313 South Dewey Street, with an alternate date on June 19, 2021 from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Fat Dog South, 102 Holiday Frontage Road for a tasting event. Number 4, send application of the Tipsy Canvas LLC for a Class 1 liquor license, beer, wine, and distilled spirits on sale only, located at 105 East 5th Street, to the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission with no recommendation. Item number 5, approve final plat for Sand Hills mixed-use subdivision located at 1000 South Dewey Street.
Move to approve items 1 through 5 of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Nisley and a second by Garrick. Any discussion on this one? Everybody ready to vote? Calling the question, please vote. Consent agenda is passed. Moving on to a public hearing, item number 6. Public hearing will be to consider action on Planning Commission's recommendation to approve an application by Henrietta Boots, owner, and Douglas and Charla Willard, purchaser, for a conditional use permit to allow living quarters situated in an office or business building in a B2 Highway Commercial District located at 4022 South Highway 83. This is a public hearing, and the public hearing is now open. Do we have anyone who would like to speak on this issue? If so, please approach the microphone. Can you guys hear me okay out there? Okay, thank you. Just checking. It's allergy season.
Mayor, move we close the public hearing.
Okay.
Second.
Motion Carmen, second Garrick, to close the public hearing. Calling the question, please vote. The public hearing is now closed. Thank you, everyone. Let's see. Do we have any discussion on considering the action of the Planning Commission's recommendation to approve an application by Henrietta Boots, owner, and Douglas and Charla Willard, purchaser, for a conditional use permit to allow living quarters situated in an office or business building in a B2 Highway Commercial District located at 4022 South Highway 83?
Need a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
We're getting there.
I'd like to make a motion. I move that we find the request for a conditional use permit to allow a living quarters situated in an office building in a B2 Highway Commercial District located at 4022 South Highway 83 meets the minimum standards stated in the North Platte Code of Ordinances, Section 156-322, and approve and grant the conditional use permit requested with the condition that all elements of the application are complied with, and with the following conditions. Based on the following factual findings, the use shall conform to all applicable ordinances, laws, and regulations of any governmental jurisdictions. The use shall have adequate water, sewer, and drainage facilities. Ingress and egress shall be so designated as to minimize traffic congestion in the public streets. The use shall in all other respects conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located, and the use shall be in harmony with the character of the area and the most appropriate use of the land.
Second.
Motion Vols, second Garrick. Any discussion on item number 6? Seeing none, calling the question, please vote. That's
We're
interesting.
missing a vote.
Sorry, I must have hit it too fast.
Okay.
Who's missing?
Well, we can't re-vote, so it passes either way. So this item passes. Moving on to number 7. Second reading and action on ordinance number 4067, amending the North Platte Code of Ordinances, Chapter 110, relating to occupation taxes to provide for agreement to the levy of a retail business occupation tax. Mr. Kibben, please read the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, amending Municipal Code Chapter 110 relating to occupation taxes, providing for agreement to the levy of a retail business occupation tax, the levy of a retail business occupation tax, establishing definitions, providing for the administration, collections, returns, delinquencies, and recovery of unpaid amounts related to such occupation tax, specifying how much tax revenue will be used, providing a sunset provision for the tax-related matters, and ordering the ordinance published in pamphlet form.
I move to adopt ordinance number 4067, amending the North Platte Code of Ordinances, Chapter 110, relating to occupation taxes to provide for agreement to the levy of a retail business occupation tax on second reading.
Motion Garrick, second Carmen. Do we have any discussion on number 7?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Reeker, you have the floor.
thank you. I think I'm talking correctly here. This is a lot of pages, and there's a couple different numbering sequences here, but as I'm reading this, and I couldn't find this particular date when I went back, but on page 103 of this document, I think it's 103, there's also listed as 49. Somewhere I thought I read that this amendment, this contract can be amended up until July 1st of 2027, which then, go back to page 65, or number 11, page 11. It talks about that the TIF bond would be extended, as I understand this, until December 31st of 2042, specifically the TIF bond, and not the EA bond, but the TIF bond. Am I reading that correctly? Okay. I guess the concern that I have about this, and I've voiced several of them, but this is in addition to the other ones I've already voiced in the past, is it seems to me like we're effectively tying up the ad valorem tax increases for the taxing entities on the TIF proposal all the way until 2042. At least in part, apparently, to what other phase may be included in this modification of the contract. Is that right, Mr. Bacon? Am I supposed to address Mr. Bacon?
You're certainly welcome to. Go ahead,
Okay.
Mr. Bacon, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor and Council, my name is Mike Bacon, 416 10th Street, Gothenburg, Nebraska. So the dates are on the reference to the bond, that's the longest the bond can go, but that does not mean that it goes the same number of years on each parcel. This project is large enough that they're going to do it much like the housing project, where they get so many houses up per year. and that 15 years starts. And then they're going to get so many houses the next year, and that 15 years starts. So it's not extending 15 years on everything. So it's not tying up all of the property increment, only the portion that they designate each year. The only amendment that can be done, and again with the mayor has to approve, is establishing the effective date. So you establish the effective date by that contract. They will come to the CRA and the council and say, we've started an improvement on this project, we've increased the value, so please start the TIF period running. The difference between the 26 and the 27 is the effective date becomes January 1 of the prior year. So,
Right.
yeah. So basically, you have waterfall of 15-year periods, but they only have until 2026 to get all of the project launched.
So are you saying then that we essentially could have more than one modification to the
Yes.
agreement, the original
Yes.
agreement?
Yes.
And how many modifications do you anticipate having?
So the first effective date, if they get going this year, would be 2022, and the last effective date, I believe, would be 2027. So up to 5 years, which seems reasonable for a TIF practitioner, because to do $74 million worth of improvements, you're not going to be able to get it launched in 1 or even 2 years. So it will develop over time. The good news is if there is a value on a piece of property, and you get some development, and the price of the undeveloped property goes up, and you're not pledged, you get that increase, and it flows through to the taxing entities. So something that's waiting for 4 or 5 years to be developed may be, because of the success of their project, growing in value. And that value does not get TIF'd. That value goes to the county, the school system, and the city. But yes, it's based on, and the note, or the TIF bond is sized on being able to structure it in a stair-step fashion.
So the project isn't going to be built all at once, is my understanding then?
That's what I am told. Mr. Works can address that, but yeah, it's described in the plan that it's going to take at least 4 years, and it's a big bite to take in that period of time. Pretty standard operation for TIF projects on commercial and residential projects. I think the Dial apartment complex was done in a similar fashion. And Mr. Parsons' project was done in a similar fashion. And I believe that the Hobby Lobby area was done in the same way.
I guess I must have mistakenly understood that in order for this project to be rented effectively, it would have to be done at one time. And that doesn't appear to be the case. So I understand the logic, Mr. Bacon. So I guess the real opposition that I have, I've described before, thank you, Mike, has to do where we're effectively tying this ad valorem increase all the way up until 2042, which I suspect Adams and Swanson would have had me by then, so that's a long time away. And it concerns me that we're tying up these tax dollars for that period of time. And like I said, it's probably not going to have a big impact on me by 2042, but nonetheless, it is a concern that I have.
Okay. We have other discussion. Seeing none. Calling the question on number 7. Please vote. That item passes. Moving on to number 8, we have another public hearing. This one is to consider action on Planning Commission's recommendation to approve the North Platte Mall Rehabilitation Redevelopment Plan on property described as Tract 1. That portion of lots 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, and 10, Seglin and Weibel's subdivision. Usually I leave the hard reading to Matt here, so, yeah. And a portion of vacated alley between said lots 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, and 10, North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska. Tract 2, all of Seglin and Weibel's subdivision, including vacated South Pine Street, vacated K and L Streets, and vacated alley. North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska. Tract 3, Block 4, South Platte Business Park, North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, pursuant to Nebraska Community Development Law. Okay, the public hearing is now open. Based on last week's meeting, we may have a lot of comments here. I don't know that for a fact, but I think we'll probably limit the debate to an hour at most, unless we have a line out the door, which we do not presently. Is that correct, Renee? Okay, so if anyone would like to say anything on the redevelopment plan, this is your opportunity. Please approach the microphone.
Mike Bacon again. Wanted to explain to you the technical pieces of this process since you started the first 2 readings of the occupation tax ordinance. Obviously, it has to be passed on the 3rd reading for that to be effective. You are today having a hearing on the redevelopment plan itself and approving that. Normally, you don't have a redevelopment contract in front of you to approve because that's only done at the level of the CRA. Because you are asked as part of this plan to impose the occupation tax, in this case, you are a party, the city is a party to the redevelopment contract. That would require the mayor's signature. That really can't occur until you have the final vote on the occupation tax, because if you don't get the occupation tax, you can't sign the contract, the plan does not work. So the resolution that's prepared and presented to you for approval, should you wish to approve it, provides that the plan be approved, that the mayor is authorized to sign the redevelopment contract, but only upon the passage on the 3rd reading of the occupation tax. So you can approve the plan, but kill the project by defeating the occupation tax ordinance later. But that's because you have several horses going down the trail at the same time. That's the method. I'd be glad to answer any other pieces related to the plan or any questions you have related to the plan.
Still the public meeting. If anyone would like to speak, now's your opportunity.
Gary Pearson, Mayor Kelleher, council members. Gary Pearson, President of the North Platte Area Chamber and Development Corporation. Just wanted to relay the fact that the Chamber and Development Corporation Board of Directors has voted 14-0 in favor of this plan and all of its different funding mechanisms. I think you heard compelling testimony from 41 different testifiers 2 weeks ago, all for lots of different good reasons why this is a very important project for North Platte and really becomes a signature project in the middle of our community. I think we're very fortunate that we have an investment team that's willing to do what it takes to redevelop a very blighted and substandard property, and we're very grateful for that. I think you heard a lot of reasons why the community wants this to happen, and there's a very clear understanding that they know there are things like the EEA occupation tax that they will be paying in that restricted area, but they know it's necessary for this project to happen. I would point out that even the two funding mechanisms that are in the plan, the TIF and the EEA, and I've said this before and I'll say it again every time it comes up, but you're really they're not using any existing city resources. The entire burden is on the developers and the people that they'll recruit there, knowing that these funding mechanisms exist. So you have a lot to gain. Not only the value of what will be there once all of the processes run their course, but just the increased sales tax will be very, very significant. And that will help the city in many, many different and varied ways. So I would ask the council to approve the project, approve the plan. We think it's a great plan, and these funding mechanisms are there by statute because the legislators understand the enormous challenge it takes to make blighted properties work. The substandard and blighted property has seen nothing but a digression in not only the value of the property, but the number of retail entities that are part of it, to the extent it's about 30% occupied now. This gives North Platte a fighting chance to get a lot of things back and a lot of exciting new things, and these developers have told you who they've been in communication with, and this is the kind of project people in this community want to see. So I would again ask you to support it.
Thank you.
Ivan Mitchell, 9466 South Coyote Lane. Just wanted to take a minute and appeal to the practical aspect of your personality. When you look at the areas that we go shopping throughout the state, I look at where my family has gone. We've gone to the Unicenter in Kearney. We have gone to the Haymarket in Lincoln. We've gone to Nebraska Crossing in Gretna. Gary could give you a list of the basically any major shopping center in our state in the Front Range utilizes the EEA. So what's happening now by us not having shopping here is we're actually paying tax twice. We're paying tax to travel somewhere to go shop, and then we're also paying this EEA tax to another community. And so I just would like to appeal to your pragmatic and the practical aspect of your personality. Whether you like the EEA or whether you like TIF or not is somewhat irrelevant. If big communities like Lincoln and Omaha and Kearney, bigger than ours, can't put in place a development without these tools, essentially by, whether you oppose them or not personally, essentially by not allowing that to come to our community, you're kind of, cutting the throat of your own community, and you're taxing your patrons twice because now we have to travel to go out and shop somewhere else. So whether you like it or not, I would appeal to you to vote for this. You can still personally oppose it, but I would recommend that you try to oppose that at the state or even the national level, because all we're doing is hurting our community by not utilizing its tools and resources. So for those of you that oppose this, I would just say appeal to that pragmatic aspect of your personality, think through this, and realize that we're being taxed twice by not having shopping and development here. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, did you want to speak? Yeah. Okay, come on up.
Talking about taxes, how come y'all don't do taxes by monthly, by checks or money or monthly earning in it?
Could you tell us who you are, please?
Eleno Moreno.
Okay. Thank you. And your question is?
On the taxes and all that.
Uh-huh.
If you want to collect the incomes of everybody around in North Platte community, the only simple way, if the taxes wants money, let them have their money by a small amount, monthly, daily, whatever, until The contract is sharp like contract. Slow a little bit, as long as they are getting the money and on the pocketbook, like check or money or, but not no credit cards or online, then do it.
Okay.
And then afterwards, paint the Statue of Liberty in the courtyard pink. It's getting a little receipt.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello. I wasn't able to come 2 weeks ago, so I'll just put in my little opinion real quick. I'm
Could you-
Sheila Bigelow, 3408 Maplewood Drive, and I've lived in North Platte pretty much my whole life. I do work at the mall and manage a store there, and I listen to all of the city meetings. Our mall community is very much behind this project. Every manager I've talked to in the mall is very excited about it. I haven't heard a lot of them come out. I don't know if they're just nervous, but they are all very excited about it. We're all behind it. We all worked in the mall, most of us, when we had more businesses there. Our businesses were stronger when we had competition because we had more people stay in town, come to town, spend their money here. So the increase in businesses will help all of the businesses in town. And another thing I haven't heard a lot of people talk about is just the actual math of this tax. I'm a pretty excessive shopper probably for our community. I would say, my husband would agree, but probably spend, embarrassingly, probably close to $2,000 at our mall every year. And doing the math, that is only going to cost me $40 a year to have a new shopping development, which I'm more than willing to pay. My Amazon Prime membership is 3 times that. So I would gladly pay the money to our community, keep the dollars in our community. As a manager, I can also share that my average dollar sale for my customers is about $70, making 10 trips a year. $700. Most of my customers are going to spend $14 a year to have this new development. So when you actually break down the math and see that it's a very small amount for each person to contribute to having something new and exciting in our community, I think that's where I'm coming from, that I think it's something we're all willing to do. And I think you saw that last week with all of the support. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else? Council members, it would appear no one else would like to speak.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion to close, Garrick, second. I'm not sure who won that one, but I'll give it to Pete, so. Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Thank you, everyone, for coming and taking the time to speak. Hold on.
Oh.
Please. I have to read this again, or Matt will growl at me, so. Number 8, the council will now consider action on Planning Commission's recommendation to approve the North Platte Mall Rehabilitation Redevelopment Plan on property described as Tract 1, that portion of lots 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, and 10, Seglin and Weibel subdivision, and a portion of vacated alley between said lots 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, and 10, North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska. Tract 2, all of Seglin and Weibel subdivision, including vacated South Pine Street, vacated K&L Streets, and vacated alley, North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska. Tract 3, Block 4, South Platte Business Park, North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, pursuant to Nebraska Community Development Law.
I move to adopt resolution as presented in council materials and approval of the North Platte Mall Rehabilitation and Redevelopment Plan of the City of North Platte and approval of related actions.
Second.
Motion Garrick, second Nisley. Okay, council, now is the opportunity to discuss number 8. Does anyone have questions or thoughts?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Reeker, you have the floor.
I want to make a comment. just to make sure that my intention's not misconstrued, I think that this project's wonderful. I think it's needed for our community. I'm excited about it. I'm glad to see that you folks are doing this. I think it's going to be a great asset to our town. I think North Platte is on the cusp of some really exciting changes with the beef processing plant hopefully going to come to town, and the new jobs are going to be that will ensue because of that. And from what I'm reading, maybe upwards of $50 million increased payroll. I think that North Platte has got a very bright future, and I'm excited about that. And I'm excited about them all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reeker. Do we have other thoughts or comments? Seeing none, I'm calling the question on number 8. If you vote yes, you're approving the plan. If you vote no, you're not. Keep that in mind. Item number 8 passes. Plan is approved. Moving on to item number 9, informational item on retirement succession planning for library director. We want to have Cecilia speak. Cecilia, would you come in and impart some information to us, please?
Mayor Kelleher, council persons, thank you for having me this evening. I'm here tonight to bring just an informational item to you regarding the library director position. On April 27th, I announced my intention to retire on February 4th of 2022. And when I informed Mr. Kibben of this, he wanted to put a retirement succession plan in place. And as fate would have it, another longtime library employee, Sharon Lohefner, she's an interlibrary loan librarian, also had announced her retirement. So Mrs. Lohefner's retirement allowed us to take time to evaluate library staffing, library services, perform a comparison to some of our peer libraries, which I shared with you, as well as allow some financial flexibility to bring in a library director successor. And bringing a successor in so early in the hiring process is really a win-win for the city. It allows them to get through the budget process and learn what that is all about, as well as job shadow me and get very familiar with the boards that I do work with. It gives the staff time to transition to a new library director as well. Because adding this item, adding another staff person to the library's level of staffing, we wanted to be transparent with you and make sure that you were aware of this item and the situation just as we went through it. So I've provided that information about peer library comparison as well as a budgetary impact. And if you've looked at that, you'll notice that this year's budgetary impact is budget neutral. Next year, we have a potential for going over budget by approximately $11,000. That is only if our new hire takes the full family benefits, which we budgeted for, but if they choose not to take it or opt for a single, that amount could be reduced and essentially, again, come in budget neutral. By the time I retire and drop off in 2022, 2023, you'll see that our budget stays in the black. So we just wanted to share this with you and answer any questions that you might have. And do you have anything else to add, Mr. Kibben?
No, you did a great job.
Mr. Carmen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is not a question, this is just a comment. I've been a pretty frequent customer over to the library for many, many years. And during the time that I've just been able to observe the operation and how you run that place, I just want to say thank you. You've done what I believe is a marvelous job with our library. I only hope that we can find someone who can fill those shoes as well as you have. So thank you, Celia.
Thank you. It means a lot to me.
We'll give you flowers and more accolades next time.
We'll bring out the cake.
We'll make you come back before you actually get out of here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. Okay, moving on to item number 10. This is going to be a slightly educational item. We're going to invite Mr. Berglund up here to do a little education in a second. Action on ordinance number 4068 to create water extension district number 266 at the intersection of West 9th Street and North Carr Avenue, thence south approximately 450 feet. And Mr. Kibben, would you read the ordinance, please?
An ordinance creating water extension district number 266, beginning at existing water main at the intersection of West 9th Street and North Carr Avenue, then south, approximately 450 feet within the corporate limits or the extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, establishing the outer boundaries of the district, designating the size, location, and terminal points, and referring to plans and specifications and estimates of the city engineer in connection therewith on file with the city clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Kibben. We would need a motion before we can get Mr. Berglund up here.
I move to adopt ordinance number 4068 in order to create water extension district number 266 as presented in council materials on first reading.
Second.
Was that you, Mr. Reeker?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion by Garrick and a second by Reeker. Mr. Berglund, would you come up here and educate us on the difference between an extension district and a connection district, please, as well as any other questions anyone might have?
Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. Kibben, Brent Berglund, City Engineer, and what is before you is we received a written request, a petition for an extension for additional water service in the city of North Platte, as was described on Carr south of 9th Street. And the city of North Platte uses primarily two ways of extending service in the community. One's a connection district, and one's an extension district. The connection district has principally been used by policy by the city for bringing in larger pipes in areas, and then the way that that's paid is when you connect, then you would pay a connection fee, an assessment. An assessment in this discussion is a cost. It's a fee, but it's assessed to the property. So if someone wants to connect to a pipe, water, or sewer, in this case we're talking about a water connection, there would be a cost for receiving that benefit. What's before you this evening is a water extension district. We had James Miller brought in a petition requesting water in this area. And so what we're presenting to you is the extension, and what that is pending the creation of the district, the water is extended. It will be built in this area, and when it's completed, then the property owners adjacent that are receiving benefit would be assessed or charged a cost, which then they have 5 years to pay it at 9% interest, or they can finance it, pay it off right away. And so that assessment or that cost will be put against the property after it's completed, after the council sits as a board of equalization, after the project's done. So those are the two principal tools that we use for extending water services, the connection and then the extension. So what before you is the extension. And as what was presented on here, Mr. Miller, they have half of the property on the east side. The west side is Viero. It's the tower company that owns the other side. And if you notice on the, I think Mr. Woods asked a question about, there's two properties saying that won't be assessed. They're on 9th Street, already serviced right now. So they receive service off of 9th Street. So that was the summary of what we're looking at. Does anybody have any questions or?
Just real quick, I noticed Mr. Miller signed off on the petition, but Viero hasn't, but they're not opposed to it. Have we been in communication with them?
Great question. As part of the city's policy is we send out a courtesy letter to all affected properties. I brought a copy of it, but this is what we sent, and we sent it on May 7th to the properties. It's courtesy, it's not required by statute or anything, but we try to communicate as much as we can with the property owners so they're aware of what's going on, but we haven't heard anything from them.
And just for further education purposes, when an extension district is created, all adjacent properties are assessed. Do I have that right?
Correct.
So both Viero and Mr. Miller would be assessed for the.
That's correct. What it's considered is all the properties would be receiving a benefit, and so the benefit is shared proportionately. And the way that it's done is by the front foot of the adjacent to the work. So if there's a water main going along this direction, if your lot's 50 foot long, you'll pay 50 foot of the cost. So it's based on the frontage of the property abutting the improvement.
And then Brent, one more item on the, if we have a petition, let's say in a neighborhood where there are several property owners and one person petitions for water service, what is our obligation to provide that water service regardless of whether or not adjacent property owners want it?
The way that it's written in statute, I didn't bring the entire statute, but there's some litigation, some court cases that have addressed some of that. It's a pretty narrow window to say no, typically would be the way. I mean, you have to have some very good reasons. You just can't say no arbitrarily or capriciously. From what I've read, it needs to be a very specific reason of why not. You would not allow a benefit to this resident, and then other residents in town would have a benefit, and they don't. So there has to be a pretty strong reason, and I'd probably defer to Mr. Waite on those exact reasons, but it would probably be case by case, and I just see a pretty limited opportunity for that to be a no from, that's just my perspective.
Mr. Carmen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You mentioned 5-year payback, 9% interest. Just curious, is there a reason why we make that interest rate so high in light of what they could get it forward down at the bank?
That comes from state statute, so I don't disagree. What our encouragement to property owners, honestly, I'd go to a bank or wherever, because you'll get a better interest and better terms that fit whatever you need. If it's a longer term or that would be my recommendation. Then the property owner has control of it in that respect.
I'm happy to learn that it's not because we want to kind of push them in the way of the private lender. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions for Mr. Berglund? Okay. Thank you, Brent.
Yes. Thank you.
We have a motion by Garrick and a second by Reeker. We have had some explanation. Do we have any discussion on this item, council? It would not appear that we do. So calling the question on number 10, please. Please vote. Number 10 passes. Moving on to number 11. Adopt resolution providing for the designation of First National Bank of Omaha excuse me, as a warrant lender, authorizing the execution and delivery of a warrant purchase agreement with such designated warrant lender, and referring to and incorporating the terms and conditions of ordinance number 3874 relating to warrant financing. By way of an explanation, this resolution, Don, keep me honest here, it has to do with the bond refinancing. No, it does not. Okay, I'm speaking wrong. I'm sorry. Okay, got ahead of myself. You want to correct me real quick, please? Thank you. Since I spoke incorrectly, let's get the right facts on the table here.
Mayor Kelleher, City Council members, this warrant purchase agreement is here tonight because we have an existing registered warrant that is maturing. And because of the fact that the project for which it was originally issued is not yet completed, we are needing to refinance that until the project is completed so that at that point we can permanently finance the warrant.
Okay, Thank you for clearing up my error, Don. I appreciate that very much. We would need a motion to proceed, everyone.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Vols.
I move to approve the resolution providing for the designation of First National Bank of Omaha as a warrant lender, authorizing the execution and delivery of a warrant purchase agreement with such designated warrant lender and referring to and incorporating the terms and conditions of ordinance number 3874 relating to warrant financing.
Second.
Motion Vols, second Reeker. Do we have any discussion on this item? It would appear that we do not. Calling the question, please vote. That item passes. Moving on to number 12. Adopt resolution approving claim and authorizing the issuance of a warrant to First National Bank of Omaha in the amount of $61,049.53 to pay approved claim and referring to and incorporating the terms and conditions of ordinance number 3874 relating to warrant financing passed and approved on May 21, 2013.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing the issuance of one warrant as presented in the materials.
Second.
Motion Garrick, second Reeker. Any discussion on this item?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Reeker?
I'm just kind of curious what this project is.
Don, would you help us out with that, please?
Yes, Mayor Kelleher, Councilman Reeker, this project is the A in Lakeview project.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone other questions? Seeing none, calling the question on number 12, please. Number 12 passes. Moving on to number 13, approve claims.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pay the claims.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Reeker?
Second.
Second. Nisley? And a fervent second, I might add. Okay, any discussion on the favor of moving the claims, approving the claims? No. Vote, please. Okay, the claims are paid. This item passes. Thank you, everyone. Public agenda request, excuse me. We respect our city employees and request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. This is the point at which if anyone in the audience has something they'd like us to consider, you are the council to consider in a future meeting. You're welcome to approach the mic, tell us who you are and what your item is, please. Kind of become a pattern that no one comes to the mic during this phase, thinking of reducing this to only once a month instead of every meeting. Okay, well, it would appear that no one would like to approach the mic. Mr. Reeker?
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion Reeker, second Garrick. Vote, everyone, please. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Hey, do you want this for prosperity?